What's going on, guys? It's Sideline Signal. I am Tyler, as always, joined by my co-host Andrew. We have seen the playoff bowl season is right around the corner. It's time for our end of the season awards. We will be talking about the Bolitnikoff Best Wide Receiver, the Chuck Bednarik Award, which is Best Defensive Player, the Coach of the Year. Andrew's got the Lou Grauza Award, which is Best Kicker, as well as the Heisman, and then giving you a pick to the most prestigious rivalry in all of college football in the Army-Navy game. Andrew, how are you feeling?
I'm excited. I think we should have a lot of agreements, maybe some disagreements with the awards. It's pretty obvious where I'm going to go with the Army Navy game, but I'm excited to talk about some of these awards.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of players deserved it. Obviously, we're down to the finalists, and we also had nine Coach of the Year candidates, so we're kind of shifting through there. But a lot of controversy, no matter which way it goes with the Heisman, as well as some of these other awards. So without further ado, let's get into it. We're kicking off with the Bolitnikoff Award, as I highlighted, the best wide receiver in the country. I do not have the finalists. Andrew does, so I'm going to ask Andrew for his choice, and he will give us the finalists as well.
Yeah, so to start off with the finalist, first off, Travis Hunter, obviously from Colorado. He had 92 catches, 1,192 yards, 14 touchdowns, and he averaged 12 and a half yards per catch. The next finalist is Teteroa McMillan from Arizona. He had 84 catches for 1,319 yards, eight touchdowns, but he averaged 15.7 yards per catch. And then the last finalist is Nick Nash from San Jose State University, who had 1,382 receiving yards. He led the country, 104 catches, and 16 total receiving touchdowns, which he also led the country in. Uh, for me personally, obviously, I think Nick Nash has a really good shot at winning it. I think all of these guys make a case, but I'm going to go with Teteroa McMillan from Arizona. I think he's the most dynamic wide receiver out of all of them. Well, obviously, the stats lead towards Nick Nash winning it. I think if you watched Teteroa McMillan play this year, obviously Arizona didn't have the season they wanted, but he is an electric player to watch. He is the perfect, mix of entertainment but good players. He had it all. His ability to make these crazy catches in traffic, his yards after catch, like I said, 15.7, which is ridiculous. And the fact that outside of the total touchdowns, he was neck and neck with Nick Nash in receiving yards. I really like what Teteroa McMillan brings to the table. I think he's going to be a top five to top 10 pick in the NFL. He's my pick for the Bolitnikoff Award.
And for good reason. He has a similar comp to a Mike Evans type wide receiver, which is something that at the next level, I'm sure they'll be drooling over. I went a different route. You talked about him a little bit. I'm going with Nick Nash out of San Jose State. Yeah, give the small school some love. He had a Mike Thomas, prime top blows everyone out of the water type season. 104 catches is absolutely ridiculous. This man was a quarterback 2 years ago. This is his first full season playing wide receiver. He kind of moonlighted as a quarterback last year, played a little bit wide receiver, but now he was the star. And San Jose State went as far as he could kind of carry them. They did nothing in games where he didn't have like over 100 yards. For example, when they played UNLV and it was raining, it was stormy, it was windy, they couldn't get him the ball. They lost that game. The offense looked horrible in that game. So for good reason, he was the crown jewel of the San Jose State offense, and he was just amazing. Kind of similar to like a Cooper Kupp. He's kind of tiny though. I don't know if he would make it to the NFL or how that's going to look. But he should get a shout, and I think he's the best wide receiver in the country because of those numbers.
Yeah, I really think that there's no wrong answer this year. Do you think that there's any argument in your eyes for Travis Hunter with the stats that he's had?
See, I kind of feel like he's going to get more popularity and like a higher percentage of the votes than we assume just because of the hype. But I don't think he should be the best wide receiver in the country because he was a good wide receiver, even a great one, but not the best. And I feel like if he does win this, it'll be because he played on defense. Part of it would be like the amount of snaps, which I think is unreasonable because there's only one Travis Hunter, so that's not fair. Like that's only an advantage he would have. But if you're going to look objectively at offensive, then you shouldn't count that in.
That's fair. I think one of the biggest arguments for Travis Hunter in my eyes is definitely the fact that he was impactful on offense, but also that his team was successful. That's the one thing I think Teterow McMillan lacks. Obviously, Arizona did not have a great season by any measure of a doubt. They really struggled in the Big 12. So, yeah, Travis Hunter had a hell of a season at receiver, and the Buffaloes had a great year, a lot better than last year. And had it not been for chaos, they lost on tiebreakers to get into their conference title game. So I think there's a small shout for him, but I think for me, it's probably between Teteroa McMillan and Nick Nash for the Biletnikoff Award. But moving on next, we have the Bednarik Award, which is the best defensive player in the country. Our finalists are Caleb Downs from Ohio State, who had 66 total tackles, three pass deflections, and an interception as a safety. We have Abdul Carter from Penn State, who had 37 solo tackles, 10 sacks, two forced fumbles, and 23 assisted tackles. And then finally, yet again, Travis Hunter from Colorado, 31 tackles, 11 pass deflections, one forced fumble, and four interceptions. I'll let you start off with this one. Who do you have winning the Bednarik Award?
So I'm going to go with Abdul Carter out of Penn State. He was just an absolute beast. As you said, his stats were ridiculous. Those 10 sacks. He made his presence felt even when he didn't get a sack. Like if there were pressures, kind of statistically, written up, he would be top of the country in kind of that, as that Penn State D line is a beast, as you know, having just watched them this past weekend. But I can't find a prospect that is closer to Micah Parsons than this guy, and you're not going to find one this year. They're not only did they both go to Penn State, they put up similar numbers. They're similar type players. You can put them in so many different situations. It doesn't need to be hand in the dirt. He can line up as a linebacker, even play a little coverage, which is something that is unbelievable. And he's just a beast. I didn't go with Travis Hunter or Caleb Downs. Caleb Downs, he was impressive. I just felt Abdul slightly edged him out. But Travis Hunter, I don't want to seem like a hater, but like he is great offense and defense, but he's not the best. And that's kind of where I went. Like he's the best all around, yes. Or one of the best all around, I should say. But he's not the best cornerback or the best wide receiver. So that's why I went with Carter. Andrew, how about you?
Yeah, we disagree yet again. I think Abdul Carter is insane. He had a hell of a season, and I agree that I think he has a very solid case to win it. Obviously, I will say Caleb Downs and Travis Hunter have a little bit going against them. The last time a secondary player won the Bednarik Award was Minka Fitzpatrick.
Very
So,
true.
historically, it hasn't treated secondary players well, but I'm going to go with Caleb Downs. And like I said, purely based on his stats and a little bit of the eye test. Obviously, Abdul Carter was a beast and he put up a lot of stats that are very impressive. But I looked at Caleb Downs and I watched a lot of Ohio State this year. He is the best safety in all of football right now. When you see him line up against some of the best receivers and best tight ends in the Big Ten and honestly college football as a whole, he had no fear. He locked them down. And yes, only three pass deflections, one interception, but 66 total tackles as a safety. He was crucial in both the pass game and in the run game. A lot of teams tended not to throw towards him because of how much of a shutdown safety he was. And I also want to give credit. He did have a punt return for a touchdown against Indiana. Obviously, I don't think that gets factored in for the Bednarik Award, but he was very versatile. I think he is the most shutdown safety in all of college football. Obviously, he's young, he's a sophomore, but he's going to be a future first round pick. I love him. He's a hell of a player. I'm going with Caleb Downs.
Yeah, and people thought like, what was Ohio State going to get? Was it going to be the jewel that Alabama kind of had when he was a freshman? And it's proved to be that and more. If he stays there, I have no idea now with the Wild West that is college football. But if he stays there, he's going to go down as one of the best defensive backs for Ohio State. And absolutely ridiculous season coming from him. As we kind of segue here to something that hits near and dear for Andrew, the Lou Grauza Award. That's going to be the best kicker. I'm going to hand the floor to Andrew in a second, as he was a specialist on our college team. Got to appreciate those guys that come up big in the big moments, some of the highest pressure moments in the sport. So without further ado, Andrew, who do you got winning?
Yeah, so let me go through our
Yeah.
finalists first for the Lou Groza. First is Kenneth Almendarez from Louisiana. He went 27 for 29 on field goals this year, his longest field goal being 53 yards, 46 for 47 on PATs for a total of 127 points this season. Next, we got Ryan Fitzgerald from Florida State. Now, obviously, Florida State did not have a good year at all. So he went 13 for 13 on field goals, but he had a long of 59. And he also went perfect on PAT. So he only had 53 total points. A lot of that was because of the struggles of Florida State's offense, but he was perfect and he had a long of 59. And then the last one is Alex Rayner from Kentucky. He went 15 for 16 on field goals with a long of 55, and then 26 for 27 for a total of 71 points. Now, this might be a little bit of a hot take for me, but I'm going with Ryan Fitzgerald. And obviously, he's last in points scored from the three of the finalists. I think Alex Rayner also has a really good case, but I don't think Kenneth Almendarez does, because I don't think you should give an award just for the amount of points scored. Because being a good kicker, stats aren't everything in terms of points, because you can just have a great offense and you have no situations where these kicks are important. I will remind people Ryan Fitzgerald hit, I believe it was a 57-yard field goal to take the lead late against Georgia Tech. Obviously, they end up losing the game. But when you talk about a high leverage kicker, it's Ryan Fitzgerald. And he was perfect. Well, he only kicked, he only had 53 total points. He went 13 for 13 and 14 for 14. None of the other two finalists went perfect. And like I said, I think Rayner has a good case from Kentucky too, because being able to do it in the SEC as well, there's a lot of pressure situations. He kicked some high leverage kicks against, I remember in the game against Ole Miss where they end up winning. So he was put on a lot of pressure. Obviously 15 for 16 and then 26 for 27, but I don't think you can knock perfection because of the struggles of an offense. If you go perfect, to me, you got to win the award. So, like I said, I'm taking Ryan Fitzgerald from Florida State to win the Lou Groza this year.
Yeah, and you put him on a team that actually has an offense, the stats are going to be better. And I would assume that he'd still be 100% based on how good he's looked. Also, to mention that kick, that long kick in Dublin, the wind was swirling that day, but both kickers adjusted well, and the kicking game ended up being huge in that game. Obviously, I don't really have any input on this. I don't know kickers that well, but they do deserve their respect. Obviously, we see it on College Game Day with Pat McAfee with the kick for the money, which is always entertaining, which shows you that it's just very hard, and that's only like a 30-yarder. Some of these situations that kickers and punters are in is just so high intensity, the highest intensity of the game. So definitely deserve their respect, and it's an important award. We've seen that carry like into NFL kickers a lot of times. I feel like if you win this award, you might get even drafted. We've seen a couple of those as well. But moving on to the Coach of the Year, the Eddie Robinson Coach of the Year award. There's a bunch of finalists. So I'll let Andrew list them off here
Yeah.
for you.
So the finalists are Jeff Monken from Army. Obviously, the incredible success that Army's had this year, only losing to Notre Dame American Athletics champions. Dan Lanning from Oregon, obviously the head coach of the number one team in the country, undefeated Big Ten champions. Kirby Smart, SEC champs at Georgia. We got Rhett Lashley from SMU. Obviously, they're a playoff team, lost in the ACC championship. But like I said, nonetheless, a playoff team. Then Kenny Dillingham from Arizona State, Big 12 champs in their first year. Marcus Freeman from Notre Dame, another playoff team, incredible year other than that loss to NIU at home. We got Shane Beamer from South Carolina. Obviously, we saw what South Carolina were able to do. 9-3 season, made a bowl game, just on the outside of the college football playoffs. We got Kurt Signetti. Obviously, we've seen yet again what Indiana's been able to do, the kind of revolution at Indiana, the Fighting Sigs. And then Danielson, the new head coach at Boise State. We've seen what they've done, Mountain West champs, bye in the first round of the playoffs. So obviously have a Heisman contender in Ashton Genty on that team. So a good 9 coaches that all have a case. A lot of fun finalists, a lot of fun teams to watch out of these coaches on this list. But who are you taking for your Eddie Robinson Coach of the Year?
As you said, this I would say was the hardest award for me to pick because it's the year of the underdog. There were so many different teams that had amazing seasons that are still going on that were not expected to do so. You had ASU being picked last in the Big 12 poll, SMU moving to the Power Four. Indiana has been in the gutter of the Big Ten, and all of a sudden they're a contender and are in the playoff. But I'm going to have to go with Rhett Lashley at SMU. There was only one team in the country with all these conference changes that moved from Group of Five to P4 this year, and it was SMU. And I was sitting there at the beginning of the season when I heard this announcement. I was like, what? Like, I get bugged because of the geography of it, but I didn't think that SMU was a program that should be in the Power Four. We've seen UCF kind of struggle. Cincinnati has struggled as well when they moved up. So I kind of figured, the American to Power Four pipeline was kind of closed for at least a couple of years. But they proved me completely wrong. Not only did they go 11-1 and undefeated in the regular season against the ACC, they kind of cruised at points. There wasn't many points where I was scared that they were going to lose. They kind of drummed Pitt. That was kind of the statement win of the year. And they only lost to BYU early in the season, which is a top 20 team right now. So he did an amazing job. They kind of thrived once they moved to the Power Four. And I want to see if he can keep the Pony Express rolling in the playoff. If he gets a playoff victory, if they beat Penn State, he's got to win for sure, without a question of a doubt, if they go into Happy Valley during a whiteout and win that game. But, this team got the death penalty in the 80s, and now they're back to winning games, and hopefully he has success in the future. But I'm going to go with Lashley here. Andrew, so many great picks. Who are you going with?
Yeah, so many good picks. And honestly, there's a lot that I wouldn't be upset with. I'm going to go with Kenny Dillingham from Arizona State. And a lot of it, like you noted, they were picked to finish dead last in the Big 12. Obviously, they won 3 games last season in his first year. Kenny Dillingham even admitted in a press conference this year that he had understood when he had gotten hired that he was probably, hired to be fired. That's what he said. Sanctioned coaches usually are brought in just to take the fall, but the team has bought in around him. He's an alumni of Arizona State, obviously. But what a year that they've had. Like I said, picked to finish dead last in the Big 12, and they go 11-2 and win it all. And they looked dominant in that Big 12 title game against Iowa State. Cam Scadaboo is running almost, if it wasn't for Ashton Genty, Cam Scadaboo would probably be the best running back in all of college football. I love what Kenny Dillingham has done. A lot of top 25 wins this year. Obviously, not all of them finished off in the final top 25, but he went into a lot of high leverage situations in the Big 12. I remember Utah late at night. That game when Utah was still doing well this season. They knock them off. That was kind of the starting point for them. And obviously that crazy game against BYU, they
Yep.
get the win at Tempe. But like I said, they get a bye in the first round after projected to finish dead last. Kenny Dillingham's young. I think he's 35, and he's able to turn a conference championship. I think it was 96 was the last time that they've won an outright conference championship. So, it's incredible to see the turnaround. This could be the stepping stone for the program to kind of get back to their winning ways. Obviously, they've been so hot and cold over the last decade when they were in the Pac-12. It's unbelievable. A lot of the credit goes to Kenny Dillingham. Like I said, he's my pick, but I wouldn't be upset with a lot of guys. I think Beamer has a case. I think Rhett Lashley has a great case. I think Kurt Signetti has a case. I mean, I would be very happy if Jeff Monken gets it too. But to me, based on everything, all things considered, I'm going Kenny Dillingham.
Yeah, and I hope he stays there for long, and I hope the success continues to grow. It's one of those rare situations where he's an alumni of a smaller school. Like usually when you see someone have success at like an Arizona State, their next move would jump to like Ohio State or something like that, a bigger fish. But I think he would stay here, and I hope he builds on that, and maybe they become a perennial powerhouse in the Big 12 and make playoff appearances all the time. But he certainly's got it rolling. And if I was a running back and I saw what Cam Scadaboo was doing at Arizona State, I'd want to go to Tempe. So an impressive year all around. But that's kind of it's a toss up, like you said. Like there's so many different ways that they could go, and everyone deserves kind of a voice there. So many great coaching performances, and hopefully each of them gets one in a different year, and they all stay at their jobs or something like that. But moving on to the granddaddy of them all, not the Rose Bowl, but the Heisman Trophy, the best player in college football. I'll let Andrew once again read off the finalists, and then we'll give you our picks.
Yes. So starting off, the first finalist for the Heisman Trophy is Travis Hunter, who combined, he had 92 catches, 1,192 yards, 14 receiving touchdowns, while also playing corner. He had 31 tackles, 11 pass deflections, one forced fumble, and 4 picks. He's the first Heisman finalist. Cam Ward from Miami, who had a 67.4 completion percentage, passed for 4,123 passing yards, He had 36 passing touchdowns to 7 interceptions. Next, Dylan Gabriel from the University of Oregon, who passed for 3,558 yards, 28 touchdowns. He's now the all-time passing or all-time touchdown scorer in NCAA, and to 6 interceptions. And he finished with a QBR of 86.5, which was second in all of college football. And last but certainly most not least, was Ashton Genty, who had 344 carries, running back from Boise State, 344 carries, 2,497 rushing yards, and 29 rushing touchdowns. An incredible pool of Heisman candidates. I think this is one of the most competitive Heismans probably of the last few years. Really, there's a few right answers, a few probably not the right answers, but I'll let you start off. Who is your 2024 Heisman Trophy winner?
Before I go ahead and let that one loose, I just want to say like Dylan Gabriel and Cam Ward likely not going to win. But any other year they would be probably top two finalists. They both had amazing years doing it differently, but both successful in the same kind of way there. But for my pick, I'm gonna be really upset if he doesn't win. I'm gonna go with Ashton Genty. It has to be. He's 131 yards off of Barry Sanders' single season rushing record with a chance to do it in the quarterfinals at the Fiesta Bowl. And I'm taking this straight from him. And I quote, the whole defense every single week is geared towards stopping me, and they still couldn't. Come on, let's smell the roses together. Ashton Genty is the best player in college football. He deserves it, and I get it. You'll be like, oh, he had a great season because of his O-line. Have you watched his highlights? He is breaking 6 or 7 tackles on most of these runs. And that's the thing. Like they'll stack the box, right? 7, 8, 9 guys. He's averaging like 5 or 6 yards a carry against 8-man boxes. He has more rushing yards than about 80 FBS teams. He actually has more rushing yards after contact than like 40 teams have just total rushing yards, which is absolutely ridiculous. And I know I said it earlier, I'm going to seem like a Travis Hunter hater, but it's just not what it is. He had such a special season. He deserves it. So I'm going to go with Ashton Genty for my winner. I know Andrew and I we might not agree here. So Andrew, what's your pick?
Yeah, I'm going Travis Hunter with this, and I don't think there's really a right answer between the two. Like, I will be extremely happy if Ashton Genty wins it, and I think he deserves it. But I'll also be happy and think that Travis Hunter deserves it. I really don't think there's a right and a wrong. I think both make great cases. And I understand, like I said, I didn't pick Hunter to win the Bednarik or the Bolitnikoff Award. But when you talk about being an elite player, and yes, some people make that argument. You can't give him a Heisman off of snap counts, but he is playing an entire game on both sides of the ball and doing it at a high, high level. And to me, I love to see, guys that aren't quarterbacks winning. That's why I'm going to be happy either way. Obviously, if it's the right guy and he deserves it, I'm not going to be upset. But we have seen one defensive player win the Heisman, Charles Woodson. And he did it having a pretty solid year, obviously, one of the best corners, and then as a punt returner. This guy is top 10 as a corner and top 10 as a wide receiver. So if he can't win the Heisman off of this, and obviously I think this is a bad year because we get Ashton Genty, who is just doing unfathomable things at running back. And like I said, I'm praying that in the first or in the second round, obviously they got the bye, that he breaks Barry's record. I think that would be great. But at the end of the day, if Travis Hunter can't win the Heisman off of stats like this, I don't think we'll ever see a defensive player win a Heisman again. And I think that's just the sad reality of it. Obviously, this is more of an award catered towards the offense, but I think Travis Hunter has done everything in his capability to win the Heisman. Obviously, Colorado was trying down the line when they were playing some weaker opponents to try to just get him the stats. But I think looking at his stats, nobody else in college football could do this. And so I'm going to take Travis Hunter. But like I said, I would be extremely happy and think that Ashton Genty deserves it as well if Genty gets the trophy on Saturday.
Um, you kind of sold me a little bit there. I liked your argument. I hadn't really heard an argument besides like snap counts. That's kind of what it was, but you explained it pretty well. So it's going to be really close. The betting odds are really strange, though. It's like Travis Hunter's going to blow everyone away, but I really don't think that's the case. I don't think it should be out of respect, even if Hunter ends up winning the award. But truly two amazing players that we may never see the likes of again. Like you said, it took almost 40 years to even get close to breaking Barry Sanders' record. Ashton Genty's record, if he gets it, is going to be up for a while and a long time because you just don't see a running back get this many opportunities to get yards like this. But truly special. And then Travis Hunter, what a freak of nature, man. He's just ridiculous. He could probably be an Olympian right now with some training, which is just crazy to say with the amount of training that they do. But great season. I mean, I agree with you. There's no wrong answer here. Every finalist for all of these reward or awards deserves it in some kind of place there. But moving on to the Army Navy game, the best rivalry in college football in my mind. I'm sure you agree with me there. Number 22, Army takes on Navy at 3 p.m. Eastern time in Northwest Stadium. For those confused, that is the Washington Commanders Stadium. I had to look that up. I didn't know they changed the name from FedEx. But Andrew, I feel like I know who you got, but you want to go ahead and explain
Yeah,
it?
there's only one answer. The boys are singing second. Go Army, beat Navy. All I have to say is Bryson Daly, run the damn football. He's going to have a masterclass of a game. There's a reason he's tied with Genty for rushing yards in the season at 29. It's going to be Army all day.
That's it. That's all you got. All right,
Keeping it
fair
short and
enough.
sweet. Go Army, beat Navy.
Yep. And, I'll say Lee Corso is probably going to disagree with you there. But but I am not. I'm going to pick Army as well. This game is so hard to pick, to be completely honest, because especially in a year where they're both good, it comes down to like the last possession. You watch 7 minute drive, 7 minute drive, quick touchdown, field goal. Like it's not so easy to predict because they both run the triple option. But I agree with you. Bryson Daly is Captain America. He's as close as we're going to get to freaking Captain America. He's going to cap off the season. Probably could have been a Heisman finalist as well, as ridiculous as his season has been. And I think we should all just take some time to enjoy the pageantry of the game, the patriotism. It's always super special. And, this game deserves all of it. For graduates, it's so special, returning students who have flipped sides and gone to each academy, the other academy. It's just so awesome. So I'm gonna enjoy every second of it.
Yeah, it's been a long tradition of watching it in my family. Obviously, my dad was in the Army, so there's been a lot of years down memory road of us singing first. So I'm glad to see the kind of the tides are changing towards Army. They've had an incredible program this year. Hopefully, Monken and the team can get a nice win and have the boys singing second.
Yep. Any final thoughts before we end off?
Like I said,
All right.
go Army, beat Navy.
There you go. Go Army, beat Navy from both of us here. This has been another episode of Sideline Signal. I am Tyler, of course, joined by Andrew. Thank you so much, Andrew. Next week we're going to start breaking down some bowl games as well as looking at the first round CFP matchups. So it'll be an exciting week. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube, like and comment as well, and follow us on TikTok at Sideline Signal. Thank you guys so much for listening, and let's enjoy some football this weekend.